Hello, I'm Delwyn Graham of Graham Wealth Partners, which is part of Canaccord Genuity Wealth Management. Today I want to talk a bit about a very common question we get in our business, which is, how much money do I need in order to retire? Now, it's typically the answer is it all depends. It all depends on your present age, the age when you want to retire, how much money you want to retire on, those sorts of things. Now, that's true, but oftentimes unsatisfactory, because typically when we're asked, people just want to check to see, okay, how am I doing now, and should I make some changes? And so those kind of sort of a short form versions of that answer have been things like, well, probably at retirement you need about $1 million in investable assets, or you need maybe 12 times your present or your present salary in order to retire. It's those sort of things. I like to have a little more nuanced approach. So my estimate is that you need about 1 times your present salary or income at 30 years, 6 times at 50 years, and 10 times at 67 years. Actually, this was brought to my attention from Fidelity, which is a mutual fund company, and I thought it was very good. They make this projection based on a few assumptions. The first is that 15% of your income is saved. That includes both what you save and perhaps your employer puts in too, and that's beginning at age 25. Also, that 50% of what you save is put in the stock market, that you look to retire at 67, and that you plan on basically maintaining the same lifestyle. Of course, these are assumptions, and they hardly ever hold true. The most important factors that I think will affect your projected retirement is when you plan to retire. Obviously, the longer that you're able to postpone your retirement, the less money you need right now in order to retire, because you have more time in order to earn money. That's kind of obvious, I guess. And the second point is that if you plan to live on less in retirement, then you don't have to have as much money once again in retirement, because you have less requirements. Now, I think that's a reasonable expectation, because if you remember in the previous projection, basically the assumption was that pre-retirement spending would be maintained. And typically, however, if you plan to live on less in retirement, it goes down because maybe at the first of your retirement you want to go traveling, maybe you have expensive hobbies, but as you get older, your mobility degenerates a bit, and so you have your expenses go down as well. Now, at the end of your life, your expenses might go up again because you require hospitalization. But if you do think that you need less money in retirement, well, that also will affect your projection as to how much money you require in retirement, and perhaps you will, at the present moment, you might not need as much money. These assumptions are they're assumptions, and oftentimes these assumptions do not hold true. What do you do if you're below our estimates? If you're under 40, there's really 2 things you can do. The first is you can obviously save more, and the second is that you can invest more for growth. So in a diversified portfolio, of course. If you're over 40, once again you can save more, which is always easier said than done, but you can save more. And perhaps you can look to reduce your spending in retirement. That's another thing. And perhaps you can work longer before retiring. But all in all, the idea is not to panic, but to take a look at your circumstances and set specific, actionable goals. The second most important factor is how much you expect to spend in retirement. If you expect to spend less in retirement, then you don't have to have as much money on hand at the moment in order to retire. So I guess that makes sense. And I think that's reasonable expectation in a lot of instances, because when you retire, oftentimes the first few years are quite expensive because you are maybe traveling or maybe you have expensive hobbies. But as you get older, your requirements become less because maybe your mobility is going down. Now, at the end of your life, perhaps it might be a little more expensive because you have critical care and that sort of thing. But I think that the idea that your lifestyle might actually become more circumscribed as you get older might not be a bad one. So, but all in all, as you can tell, this is an ideal estimates, and oftentimes, and a lot of times, you are below the estimates. What do you do if you're under 40 and below estimate? The most obvious answer is to save more, and which is, I guess, obvious, and perhaps invest in a growth portfolio that is diversified, of course. The second, if you're over 40, is once again you might want to save more, or perhaps you could reduce spending at retirement, or maybe work longer. Wherever you are at the moment, the idea is not to panic, but to take a look at your specific situation and set up some actionable goals. And that's our job. We will take a look at your special circumstances, set up some goals, and execute on those goals so that you can plan on and actually enter into a comfortable retirement. Please contact us at www.grahamwealth.com. Please like and subscribe, and thank you for watching.